So, dear students, today our topic is about energy transformation. So, first we define what is the energy and how it is transferred from one form into the another form. So, energy transformation is also known as the energy conversion, and it is the process of changing energy from one form to the another form. So, this transformation can be explained with the concept of these examples that when the sunlight energy have been captured by the plant, so plant process some of the photochemical energy in the form of the photosynthesis. Again, its radiation energy can be converted into the electrical energy or some chemical energy during our daily life activities. So these concepts we will discuss one by one with their respective example and type of the energy conversion. So the first type of the energy transformation conversion is the conduction process. So now the conduction can be defined as the transfer of heat energy through the direct contact between the particles, right? So it basically occur in the solid where the particles are tightly packed together, right? So this can be explained with the help of the example of this process that as one hand of a solid object is heated, the atoms in that region gain the maximum kinetic energy. And so when it gain the maximum kinetic energy, so it will vibrate more rapidly, right? So it's mean that the thermal or heat energy is converted to handle of the pan. Secondly, these vibrations are then transferred to the neighbor atoms through the collision. For example, the atoms will collide with each other, and during the collision, they vibrate and generate the thermal energy in the form of the some electrons. So, it causing the heat energy to spread throughout the object, right? So, it's mean that all the object will spread this heat energy during the process. So there is some example of the conduction such as the cooking pans, some radiators and some thermal insulators are the example of the conduction in our real world application or the daily life activities. Now we are discussing some of the interesting examples in our daily life. The first example, which we called melting ice in your hands. For example, the heat from your warm hand is conducted directly to the colder ice cube, which causing the ice to the melt, right? The second example is when we touching a hot mug. For example, when you hold a mug of hot coffee, then heat from the liquid transfer through the mug materials to your hand. So the third example is walking on a cold tile. For example, walking barefoot on cold tile floors feel much cooler than walking on the carpet because tiles has a much higher thermal conductivity and rapidly conduct heat from your feet. So this is the three interesting examples of the conductions which you observe during your daily life activities. Now we're discussing the second type of the energy transformation, which is the convection. And convection can be defined as the transfer of heat energy through the movement of the fluid. So in that case, the fluid may be the liquid or some gases. So the convection is process when a fluid is heated, its density become decrease. So it causing it to raise. As it raises, right, it carry the heat energy with it. So it raises and it carry almost all of the heat energy with it. So when it is cooler down, the denser fluid then move in it to take it places. So during this cyclic process, it create a convection current. So this is the best mechanism of the convection. We can easily relate with the definition that during the increase and decrease of density, the convection current will be created and it produce some of the energy in your object. So this process is responsible for phenomena like when the circulations of air will be occur in the environment or room or the formation of the ocean currents, right? So this is phenomena basically helpful for some of the climate changes or some of the activities in our daily life. So this phenomenon is present in ovens, some refrigerators and some air conditioners are responsible for the convections or the energy transformation phenomena. So this we explain with the example on our daily life. For example, atmospheric circulation. In this picture, it has been observed that the sun heats the earth's surface, right? Then warming the air above it. This warm air raises, cools, and then sink, driving weather phenomena like cloud, winds, and storm. So this is the atmospheric circulation which accept the phenomena of convection in our daily life activities. The second example is the hot air balloons. For example, when a burner heats the air inside the balloons, making it less dense than the surrounding outside air. So this hot air causes the balloons to rise, right? So this is the second example of the hot air balloons. The third example, which we called as a home heating, for example, our radiators on some baseboard heaters warm the air near it. This warm air raises, circulate around the rooms, cools, and then sink back to the reheated. So this is the example of the heating the room. Now we discuss the third type of the energy transformation, which we call the radiation. So radiation can be defined as the transfer of heat energy through the electromagnetic waves. So unlike the conduction and the convection, now the radiation does not require any medium to travel through. For example, there is no requirement of medium where it will be travel occur. So this is there is the some example. For example, it can occur a vacuum such as the heat from the sun and reaching to the earth is the example of the radiation. So radiations, all the object with the temperature above the absolute zero emit electromagnetic radiations, in which including some visible light, some infrared radiations, and some ultraviolet radiations. So the amount of the radiation which they are emitted depend on the temperature of the object, that how much the object receive the radiation during this process. So there is some real world application of the radiation such as the sunlight, the microwaves, and the infrared heaters are the example of the real world application of the radiation. So now there is the scale of the different example in spectrum of the electromagnetics. For example, radio waves, AM, FM radio broadcasting, some cell phone signals, Wi-Fi, radars, microwaves, some microwaves ovens, satellite communication, GPS devices are the example of the radiation energy. Now, to understanding these concepts is essential for various applications, such they are helpful for designing some efficient heating and cooling system. For example, these three concepts will help in our daily life for efficient heating and the cooling system. It will also help to developing some thermal insulations and some materials. Also, understand weather patterns and the climate changes. So, in the last, we can make a differentiation between these three concepts on the basis of mediums, mechanisms, and the examples. So, the medium in the conduction is the solid, while in convection, it is basically the fluid which may be liquid or gases, while in the radiation, there is the no medium required. In the basis of the mechanisms in the conduction, the basic mechanism is the vibration or the collision between the particles, while the convection it is the fluid movements, while in the radiation there is the electromagnetic waves involved. So there is some examples in the conduction. For example, heating a metal rod or touching a hot stove is the example of the conduction. In the convection, basically boiling water or hot air balloons or the ocean current is the example of the convection. While in the radiation, heating from the sun or the glowing light bulb is the example of the radiation. So these all concepts are the example or the terminology of the energy transformation, which is the conduction, convection, and radiation with respect to their examples in our daily life. Thank you so much.